UFC 273, it's a big one. Let's start off with the main event. Alexander Volkanovski versus Jung, the Korean Zombie. Volkanovski, a minus 800 favorite, and the Korean Zombie plus 520. Bryan, who do you have and why?
Now, if we remember, Korean Zombie's a replacement because Max Holloway was supposed to get his third opportunity here. That didn't happen. He had to pull out due to injury, but you can't not go with Alexander Volkanovski here. I'm going with him, and I'm going on points. I think he's going to win by decision. Korean Zombie's tough. We know that he could take a punch. He could take a lot of hits, and he lasted 5 rounds with Bryan Ortega, as we saw recently. He hasn't been knocked out in a while. I think the last time was against Yair Rodriguez, which we all remember was one of the best elbows you've ever seen. But Alexander Volkanovski, he's truly a fighter's fighter, somebody who is very dominant wherever you put him. He rarely loses rounds, and I think that he is going to decision his way to victory. He's just going to keep Korean Zombie grounded and be able to, do what he wants for most of the fight. So I'm going with Volkanovski, and I'm going on points.
I got to agree with you right there on going with Volkanovski. I know he's the favorite, but the Korean Zombie, you know that you can't sleep on his power. He's got good counter shots. He is the underdog in this fight, and you got to watch out for that nasty uppercut. But his power is real, and as you know, you cannot take that lightly. But like you said, he takes a lot of hits. And you talked about Bryan Ortega. I thought he got destroyed by Bryan Ortega. And that's the thing. Volkanovski is the champ for a reason, and I thought he destroyed Bryan Ortega. So that's why I got to roll with Volkanovski. I think he works around the jab really well. He's got really good stamina. The dude does not get tired. I think he's going to start chopping away at the legs. And I actually have Volkanovski by stoppage. And if you bet on the TKO, it's a plus 240. So that's what I'm going to go with. I got Volkanovski winning by TKO. And I think it's been a minute since he has gone one. I believe it was like Chad Mendez back in 2018. But that's a bet that I'm ready to take. So let's move on to the co-main event, and this one is just as good as the main event. It could be a main event on another card. Aljamain Sterling and Petr Yan 2. The first one, of course, how it ended, controversial. But Bryan, who do you have and why? Sterling is a plus 360 and Petr Yan minus 500.
I know a lot of people are going to go Yan here, especially after the illegal knee. That's one of his only losses, and he barely has losses in the UFC. And if you bypass that loss, he hasn't really lost since 2016, and that was a split decision. So he's almost undefeated is the point. Now, I kind of want to go with Aljamain Sterling here because I just think he's going to surprise some people. I think so many people are going to be backing up Yan here, and he's a favorite for good reason, even though he's an interim champion and they're trying to unify the bantamweight titles here. But Aljamain Sterling is 20-3. He hasn't fought in over a year, but he had 5 straight wins before that. He's been on a great run. Before that 5-fight win streak, he was 2-3. And I think that Aljamain Sterling is going to come in and get the submission. I'm going with the submission at plus 850. I actually think he's going to surprise some people. Maybe it's a little New York bias for me because he's from Long Island and I'm from Queens, but I'm going with Aljamain Sterling here to shock the world, as we've seen sometimes in the UFC.
I like that sleeper bet, but Sterling, to me, in that first fight, he was outstriking Yan, which is pretty crazy because when you think about Yan, he's the better striker, but he's also just, I think, technically better than Sterling. And you look at Sterling, he was trying to take down Yan a lot in the last fight. He wasn't able to. He works hard for everything, but Yan, I think his boxing is solid. I love my boxing. He throws some really good combos. I think he's going to outbox Sterling. He's got good head movement. As we kind of mentioned earlier, Sterling, he wasn't able to get him to the ground easily, and Yan is the better striker to me. He's the better technician. He throws more volume punches. I'm actually going to go with Yan by decision, and if you take him on points, it's plus 125. I think this one is going to be an absolute banger. And of course, if you're going to be making your bets, make them on FanDuel Sportsbook, and best of luck. And if you're going to bet, do it responsibly.